Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Commissioners meeting this evening. Before we have our moment of silent prayer, I wish everyone would keep Rhonda Griffin's family in their prayers. And if you will, if you'll join me for a moment of silent prayer now, and pledge of allegiance after that, please. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public hearing on the 22-23 budget. We need a motion to go into the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. Mr. Dickinson? I'm sorry?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Howell, Mr. Jeffries? Aye. Mr. Owen? Aye. Mr. Odestriker?
Aye.
Mr. Massagill? Aye. McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. We are now in public hearing for the budget.
Commissioners, just a few highlights for the budget. This budget has been presented and is in accordance with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. The budget is in compliance with state statute, general accepted accounting principles, and in compliance with the direction given by the Board of Commissioners. The state and local coronavirus fiscal recovery fund allocation of $2,195,281 for fiscal year 21-22 and $2,195,281 for fiscal year 22-23 will certainly aid in the mitigation of the effects that have been felt casual and provide opportunities for the county moving forward. The total recommended general fund is $25,953,510, which does represent a 10% increase from fiscal year 22. Property tax revenue is the primary source of governmental fund revenue, providing approximately 42% of general fund revenue. The recommended budget includes an ad valorem tax rate of 73.5 cents per $100 valuation and an ad valorem special fire district rate of 0.0369 per $100 of property value, which are rates equal to the previous year, so no tax increase. There's no use in fund balance included in the recommended 23 budget. $4,292,498 of additional unrestricted sales and use tax is also included in the 22-23 budget as is customary. DSS does have an increase of $170,000 over current year appropriation. The health department will see a $156,742 decrease in funding from the county during the upcoming fiscal year. This is the third straight year the county appropriation for the health department has decreased. There's no COLA included in the 22-23 budget. The Caswell County Board of Education has requested an increase of 17% or $632,400 in this year's budget. The manager's recommendation represents a 3.5% increase. Piedmont Community College has decreased their requested allocation for fiscal year 22-23 by 16% or $94,258. I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for providing valuable direction to staff and to assist in the development of the recommended budget. I also commend the department leaders and their staff for their diligent work during the development of the 22-23 budget and truly appreciate their willingness to sacrifice when reducing expenses. I look forward to working with the board to develop a final budget for fiscal year 22-23. Commissioners, as you know, you've had several special budget meetings leading up to this point where several changes have been made to the recommended budget. You have at least 3 additional meetings scheduled where additional changes can be made to the recommended budget. So we look forward to helping you wrap up this budget season. And with that being said, I think, Mr. Chairman, we should open it up to the public for comments from the public on the fiscal year 22-23 recommended budget.
Are there any public comments at this time? Yes, ma'am. Did we not have a sign-up sheet?
Not for the public comments,
Okay,
Not for public hearings.
public hearing.
okay. Go ahead.
My name is Elaine Claggett. I reside at 108 J Lane, Providence, North Carolina. Here are a dozen examples that highlight taxpayers' concern in fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. On May 31st, the first line item of the proposed budget stated commissioner salaries were $53,000. You're paid $8,500 each plus $2,000 for the chair, which totaled $61,500. How many more errors followed in the next 82 pages? In 2020, the finance department salaries totaled $180,000, and this year they're requesting $314,000. Why? Where's the 2021 annual budget audit that was due last October? Similarly, 911 telecommunication salaries totaled $343,000 in 2020, and today over $600,000 is requested. Their total budget has increased 160% in 2 years. School attendance dropped from 2,425 to 2,132 in 3 years, almost 300. Over 900 children do not attend Castle Public Schools. So why did the manager propose a 3.5% increased appropriation? Sheriff Department budget has also increased $840,000 since 2020. Plus, the detention center is set to lose over $1.1 million this year again. How can this redundant loss be resolved if not discussed publicly by management? Casual's tax, DSS, and county attorneys were paid a sum of $327,000 in 2021. How much would one full-time attorney save taxpayers? On February 22nd, 2021, Caswell listed 134 vehicles with 229 employees. 23 vehicles were additionally leased in 21 and 22. Taxpayers are now required to give $2,600 every week to the Animal Protection Society. A $27,000 electrical vehicle charging station has been proposed. How many EVs are registered in Caswell? Approximately 1/3 of the Caswell residents don't have internet access. Where is this priority identified in your budget? And lastly, will the BYHS $35 million construction loan payments be due in 2023, and how much will taxes increase? How much will the property reappraisal in 2024 cost property and homeowners? And finally, having worked in ERs and ICUs in 3 different states, I fully support 911, EMS, and the Sheriff's Department. And the same identified concerns cross over to other departments. Fiscal management starts and ends with the county manager and with commissioners. 3 new commissioners with business expertise coming in the fall, at least give hope. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to speak at this time?
Make a motion to close public hearing on the 22-23 budget.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the hearing. Mr. Dickerson? Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Massengill? McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed. I need a motion for the public hearing on proposed UDO amendment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll do roll call voting again. Mr. Dickerson?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Massengill? McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. We now sit in public hearing on the UDO amendment.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The amendment that you have before you is a revised proposal as voted upon by the Caswell County Planning Board during their May 24th meeting. In summary, these amendments would change the Unified Development Ordinance to allow recreational vehicle parks to be developed in a floodplain and clarify the definition of a recreational vehicle park in the appendix. The UDO currently prohibits RV parks from being located in flood zones, but this proposal would change that to allow such development, while it would require RV park developers to obtain a floodplain development application to submit a site plan illustrating the flood zone location on the property, to create an evacuation route to be located outside of the flood zone, and to place signs on the property notifying visitors of the evacuation plan. Changes to the definition would aim to ensure that RVs have properly inflated tires at all time and be fully licensed and ready for highway use. And that definition matches the existing language in the RV ordinance, Article 9. This amendment was originally proposed by Mr. David Chapton of 121 Longbow Road in Reedsville. However, Article 4 of the UDO allows the planning board to recommend revisions to proposed amendments before they are taken up by the commissioners. Mr. Chapton, I believe, is in the audience tonight if you wish to hear from him, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have before or after public comments.
Commissioner, any questions? Yes, not. Anyone else want to speak? If not, I will entertain the motion of closing the public. Sir? Motion to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing on the proposed UDO amendment. All those in favor, Mr. Dickerson?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Massengill? McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. The meeting is closed.
Commissioners, at the end of this public hearing, you have two different options. You can vote to approve the recommended changes, or you can take that up in a different meeting. We're happy to do whichever one you'd like us to do.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Did the planning board pass this unanimously?
Yes, sir, I believe it was unanimous.
Do you want to make a motion to vote on this? To approve?
Mr. Chairman, I feel like I do need to mention one item. The third bullet point on the proposed amendment, which should be the document with blue highlighted text. The third bullet point references, it says warning signs proposed as listed in section 9.29. That section of the UDO does not exist. That was just a typo or an error by planning board member Scott Oakley, who proposed these revisions. The reference is supposed to be to section 9.73.1, which is our county outdoor shooting range ordinance. That ordinance requires signage notifying the public that there's a shooting range, and has some specific wording for such signs. So if it's the desire of the board to vote on that tonight, you may want to alter that or take it out altogether so that if you do go through with it tonight, it's a little clearer.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest, given the necessary revision, and perhaps it'll be clear if we provide a strike and delete format of the revised ordinance, that you hold this matter until your next meeting, when we can give you a clean copy of the proposed amendment with all changes shown in a strike through and underlined format.
Everybody okay with that on board? We'll hold.
I just have a question of where is this located, the one you're referring to here? Where's the park that they're proposing?
So this would be generally applicable. This would allow any property which also happens to encompass a flood zone to be able to accommodate an RV park.
Okay, I would assume there's a property.
Yes, sir. So Mr. Chapman initially submitted a proposal, I believe it was back in December, for a property in Milton. But I want to say about 50% of that property is located in the flood zone. And so because the UDO says specifically they cannot be placed in the flood zone, I had to deny that application. Mr. Chapman then went back to the drawing board and submitted a request for a UDO amendment, which he has the right to do as a citizen.
And how close is this to the actual river itself? If you said it was in Milton?
It's on Country Line Creek.
On Country Line Creek?
It is not
on the dam?
Not on the dam.
Okay, thank you. I know how the dam river can get.
So commissioners, we're happy to hold this up and put it on one of your upcoming agendas.
Is everybody in agreement with that? Yep. All right, if you will, hold that up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Public comments. We have one, Mr. John Claggett.
Good evening. My name is John Claggett. I reside at 108 J Lane, Providence, North Carolina. I request this statement be recorded verbatim. I would hope that most of us here this evening has some sort of an understanding of the county shortfalls regarding electronic meetings provided for public viewing. Acoustic issues with this meeting room specifically have been identified repeatedly. Based on my personal experience and as part of the viewing public, the library seems to be the most stable venue with both the audio and visual elements. Gentlemen, these electronic meetings are your product and would indicate that the county possesses the operational knowledge of this technology. Has any member of this board ever taken the opportunity to review your product when it is originated from CoSquare? Did you review the footage with the recent joint meeting with different municipalities and recent budget work sessions? When public electronic meetings are conducted with CoSquare as a venue, why does the camera pan aimlessly rather than focus on those participating in the discussion? Why does the audio continue to be unintelligible? Why aren't PowerPoint presentations viewable to the public? If this doesn't happen when the library is the venue and Caddo County possesses the technical know-how, why is this malady allowed to continue from CoSquare? CoSquare is a $1.4 million renovation and supposedly an IT episode. The public deserves better. And remember, gentlemen, this is your product to the public. Thank you.
No one else has signed up at this time. We will move on to recognitions. No one on the board has any recognitions. We will move to the agenda. Approval of the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrike?
Aye.
Mr. Massengill? Ms. Bay? Aye. Mr. Dickerson? Evidently, we've lost him. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Approval of the consent agenda A through D, joint meeting minutes, budget meeting minutes, and regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, Mr. Dickerson? Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrike? Mr. Massengill? Ms. Bay? Aye. Motion carries. Approved. Presentation, Barton Yancey High School update. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, commissioners, county manager, staff for the opportunity to present.
Speaking
Stand close. Is that better?
a little bit.
Okay. The new glasses mean I had to push this up a little higher so I can read it, so bear with me a little bit. Okay, we'll start out with this was presented to the May 23rd to the Board of Education, so approximately a month ago. So I'll hit a few things that have advanced as we're moving the project forward. But the first page, you've seen this before. We remain with the project budget as initially, $29 million and change. Contract date and contract amount remain the same. The contingency adjustment used to date, $743,892.54, which is 67% have been used previously. In this estimated contingency adjustment that we are working our way through right now is $190,000 or 17% of the total contingency. And the estimated contingency balance of $173,282 or 16%. If I were to take it as a whole, the next lines go to project phase 1, complete, total project 94%. We have used or proposed the use of 84% of the total contingency. So we're tracking along in the project. So everything's moving along pretty smoothly. Let's go to the next slide. So we'll talk about the overall project schedule update. So contract completion remains August 2nd.
Excuse me. On the contingency,
Yes, sir.
can you give us a general overview of how that's been used?
Yes, sir, I can.
Not dollar by dollar, but
Yes, sir, I can. In case the question came up, can you go to the last slide for me, please? So this pie chart at the back, this is the 190,000. This is not the total project. This is 190. When we go to the total project, as we move forward to completion, I do anticipate coming back and doing a pie chart like this to say, where did the money go? So I'll hit you a few of those items right there. The gray box in the lower left is unforeseen conditions, and that's in the renovations, roughly 67,000. We had some hiccups in the piping, and the piping under the slab, as we dove into it with the cameras to see if it's usable, were unusable. So I had to completely redo the underground. The overhead piping, when we opened the ceilings up, there was no overhead piping. It was all underground, which meant it was also contaminated and no good. The architect included the kitchen itself overhead, but we had to add the hot water and a new feed into the building. And that pipe going all the way out in the beginning, just to give you a heads up, almost 2 years ago in October, we had a corroded pipe out on the site, and we decided at that point in the previous contingencies to relay that pipe in anticipation of using it. And when we ran it, it's under the new parking, under the new paving, under the new sidewalks, and it wouldn't have been catastrophic if we hadn't replaced it. Same catastrophic result would happen in the kitchen. So out of this kitchen, this talks about 67,000, but we incurred a little more since then, so we're approximately $80,000 of the unforeseen in the kitchen. So the majority of this 190 is in that kitchen, approaching 100,000. To the right is deferred maintenance. For generally, we would have to fund this project at some point. That deferred is a big piece of large vehicle access, which allows Duke Power, the gas company, grease traps, sewer, and repairs to get in the courtyard. In the upper right, these are incidentals that we came to pass as we continued construction. We have some land and some warranty issues, and we have air handler unit balancing, cooler freezers that didn't have a monitoring system, so to monitor it so we don't lose food product, and existing technology closets did not have sufficient power, so that's what's in those. And the yellow pads, 19%. Those security improvements, which are door contacts, science fan exhausting controls, so safety. Additional areas needing security camera monitoring. So this is a general picture of where the 190 went. So as you can see, the majority of this is in safety, unforeseen, and deferred maintenance, and we had some in the blue in the other category. Permits and allowances. So I hope, did that answer your question sufficiently?
Well, I understood this, but I was looking for the project to date. Maybe you can do that in the next.
Yes, sir. I'd like to do that. As we get closer to the end, I think the citizens need to know where the tax dollars went.
Right.
So yes, we need to do that. It can be accounted for down to the nickel, but this large picture covers it.
That's what my question was, the project to date, and I understand.
Okay.
You probably didn't have that at the ready.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Go back to the third slide.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Were any of those security camera improvements placed in any of the classrooms? Where were they located?
They were not in classrooms. They're located in corridors and in locations that, as the students have occupied the campus, staff has identified spots that needed a little surveillance. So that's the two areas that the cameras
were they ever designated to be in the classrooms? Were there any plans to put them in the classrooms at any point during the construction?
No, sir. And in my experiences, I've never put a camera in a classroom. It can create some issues, and typically parents don't want their children recorded without permission. And then there are other issues, but typically it's a permission issue of taking images of children below adult age without parental permissions. But
well, it is very much permissible under state law. I did the background on it. It's not illegal. And, you know, this is not the time and place to debate it, so I won't do that. But if there's a gunman in one of those schools shooting, I would like the sheriff's department to have access to every room in that school that they can to identify that safety hazard. The safety of our children trumps any concerns over privacy in a public building.
Yes, sir. Any other questions on that? Okay, we're back on project schedule update. So August 2nd, and I want to say that at this point, we really, when we started, we wanted a safe project. We wanted a project that could be completed on time and within budget. And at this point, we're tracking in that direction. We're going to produce the project on time. It will be under budget. That's tracking. We're still 173 in contingency. And we have no accidents or injuries, not just to contractors, but to students and staff, which is huge, and parents and general public. So all of those things lend itself toward a complete, successful project. And at the same time, we all know the issues. We've gone through COVID, material shortages, plant shutdowns, quarantining of workers in factories. So all during that period, and yet the project is remaining on task and on target. That's a credit to an entire good team working well together, and that should be said that it is a good group. So we'll go on down to phase 2 kitchen. It was open and serving students April 25th. The connecting corridors were also open on April 25th. So this is a large piece of the safety of the campus for internal circulation. That leaves us the renovated cafeteria, which is arts, culinary kitchen, which connect both gyms. Those areas are scheduled for August 2nd, and we look on target for those areas. Total project completion remains the same. Those are the two biggest pieces. So if this is a quick one, you've seen this before, I'm going to go by phase. So phase 1's 99%, same as it was. There are a couple of other items. We are working diligently with the commissioning agent, checking into every system for operations. Also, all the entire campus of safety, security, fire alarm, and everything else. So next slide is a picture of the site, total site. It's starting to clean up, the 2-story in the front center. Phase 2, with it complete, the whole entire center and the rear of the site with the dining and connecting corridors where the arrow was. This is where it was in May 3rd, so it's complete. Then I'll look at the next page, which is systems. And you can see most of the systems are really focusing downward. We're really getting a lot done, and with the kids being out of school here this last week, we can really focus on all of the existing campus rooms that have been held back because students are in school and they get first shot. As you can see, they range from 90%, 95%. Then as we go to the cafeteria kitchen renovations, May 3rd, the old kitchen. We have the new kitchen dining in the center and things to the right. So I'm going to go to the next page and go to phase 3 construction, which is the old or the renovation of the kitchen cafeteria. We started spring break and actually started 2 days before spring break by vacating and moving. So when the children were out, that we could abate and demo while the students were not in school. Still on task for August 2nd. These are the systems, 700 building systems, fire alarm, site fencing, and site security. This is the area in the renovation that's contractors are working heavy in. Really torn out everything, torn the windows, doors, inside, let the wind blow through. Very extensive renovation. The unforeseen conditions are really down in the bottom of that, which is the culinary kitchen in the bottom. That's where most of the unforeseens happen. And this gives you some progress pictures. And we'll move quickly from March 9th to April 20th. Serving, they're ready to serve kids. The serving line, we're March. And here we are in March in the dining. And the next one is they're ready to serve students April 20th and start serving the 25th. So excellent looking spaces. And next are some pictures saying progress between March and May in the 400 East connector. And the same in the 500. You can see they're finishing up nicely. The courtyard in February goes to the courtyard. Next slide. Landscaping's done, the courtyard's complete. Everything in that picture is turned over for school and occupant use at spring break. The next one is the phase 3 renovations of demolition. It should be commented on the left, the move out April 13th and it happened quickly. We need thanks to Jerry Hatchett and maintenance, Ms. Mims and the food services, technology, David, the principal, custodial staff, for all making this happen within the space. Tremendous efforts. The old kitchen, you can see it's being abated. The old dining room, no longer ceilings, floors. The kitchen is starting to demo, the senior dining is in demo. And if you go to the next, you can see all these items. Blockwork started, kitchen floor cut, and we'll go to the area pictures. Then we hit this area in the circle is where contractors were in February. And let's go to the next. So the contractor has April 4th was finishing up, and then we moved completely in May to where the contractor's on the left-hand side and the renovation area. Everything to the right, not in the circles, is turned over for school use. This has been a tremendous effort for everybody on that site. Caswell County, their citizens, their students, their parents should be excited for this wonderful facility. If you have questions, I'll be glad to field those. Just want to move quickly through these.
It's the hydrant back to back.
Covered. The fire line is in. The fire hydrant that they said was in the warehouse was not, so they changed the hydrant. It disappeared when COVID and somebody swiped it from the warehouse. It should be in within the next week and live. It should be on. Fire alarm system's going in too, Mr. Metzger. All the parts came in on schedule at the end of May, and obviously by the time kids come back, all of that's 100% done.
Will you let me know when it's up and so we can test it?
Oh, obviously, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. On these exterior corridors, are there any exits or entrances in the corridors themselves? They're all exit or entrance into buildings?
There are entries and exits in the corridor. Those on the outside remain locked with a key card. On the interior to the courtyard are open for student use, so the students can access the courtyard, which isn't closed with a fence when they come back to school.
Right. And that would be my second question. I know there's decorative fencing. I've seen most of that. How far does that go around the school?
All the way around.
All the way around the school?
Completely encompasses from the football field, CC, everything. Has electric gates with security monitoring. And that's another thing that we put in was each one of those 10 locations of entry have a phone where that if people come up, they have to be buzzed in. So that hits the school office, they look at it, determine if it's a viable entry point, and they can say no or they can allow them in, all controlled from the front office. Excellent question.
I understand that you got 99% complete. I saw in the shot that it was completed 99%.
The two-story, 99% complete. The total project now is 94%, and the rest of that is in the renovated dining, and it's under major construction right now.
So we're gonna have about 16% left over,
That's the hope. Can't promise anything right now. It's not over yet, but that's possible. And I don't know about, you said loan, I'm talking about contract amount. Can't see the loan. That's county took the loan.
I know, and the motion was made to build a school, was in the proceed left, supposed to go back on the
Yes.
ticket.
Yes, sir.
And I'm still looking for that, you got 16%.
We're certainly hopeful in that regard, and we're trying to do everything we can to make it a good, safe environment for the kids. So when the construction team walks away, that it's good for a lot of years. Can't promise the older buildings that weren't touched, but hopefully the rest is good.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the second Knox box in yet?
Not yet. It's in the works. Ordered, it should be there, and it goes to the back gate.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions for Mr. Powell? If not, I'm sorry.
I just said thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to action items, non-conforming Hydo property analysis, Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, this is the second time this item has been in front of the board. We have moved this amendment forward as a zoning ordinance amendment, and thus you have it back in front of you this evening. After the first reading and discussion, a motion was made by Commissioner Massengill and seconded by Commissioner McVeigh, and it carried unanimously to give the businesses until December 31st, 2022 to come into compliance with the grandfathering provision, and to ask that if by October 31st, Mr. Hoagland had not received any paperwork from the remaining businesses, that he make a phone call or visit them. That motion was approved by Commissioner Dickerson, Hall, by Commissioners Dickerson, Hall, Jeffries, and Massengill and McVeigh, with Commissioner Owen and Commissioner Ostriker being absent. We would like for you to take another vote on this tonight, just to confirm the approval of the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, what you're doing as a technical legal matter is amending section 1472A1 of the High Impact Development Ordinance to revise the expiration date of the grandfathering provision till December 31, 2022, instead of the existing 1 year mark after adoption.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this amendment as previously stated in our last meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, roll call voting. So for approval, Mr. Dickerson.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Owen. Mr. Ostriker. Mr. Massengill. McVeigh. Aye. Motion carries. Bids for reevaluation, Mr. Bernard.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Bring before you tonight, I've got sent out requests for bids for the 2024 reval. We got 2 bids back. One was from Pearson Appraisal, one was from Pioneer Appraisal. Pioneer Appraisal, some of their folks worked in the previous reval under JWE Services. But we only got 2 bids. Mr. Piner's bid was $445,500. Pearson's, he did not give us, he broke it down into $26 cost to visually review each one, $18 to view using Google Maps, which I did not like, and then $65 per cost for value for commercial and industrial. And the reports I ran, his total bid would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $460,837. And I recommended for the cost, the personnel that Piner's using, their qualifications, I recommend Pioneer Appraisal for the 2024 revamp.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are either one of these companies the one that had the problem in Pennsylvania County recently with the poor appraisals and they had to go back and redo so much?
I don't know about Pearson. Pioneer does not do any appraisals in Virginia. Pearson does. Pearson is doing I know Pearson is in the process of doing one in Pennsylvania County now. So I do not know, but I know Pino has not had any issues.
You say they're doing it in Pennsylvania County now. Were they bought in to clean up the mess of the first one, or were they involved in the first reevaluation and went so sideways?
I have no idea.
Mr. Bernard, you said some of them, of the one you asked about or recommended, some of the people worked for the last company, last appraiser.
That's correct.
Who was the last appraiser, and
JWE Services.
are they no longer in business?
They're in business, but they did not submit a proposal for this reval. So I know it's been several of the people that work with JWE Services. One of them was Mr. Piner. Now he's been out on his own, and I think one of the others, a couple other employees were working for Piner.
Do you remember the bid for the last appraiser?
I do not.
Mr. Manager, do you remember?
I do not.
Mr. Bernard, there was a comment in here, and I don't have it right in front of me, about the tax cards, property cards would not be printed, or can you explain that a little bit?
What they're using, instead of us printing property cards for them to take out in the field, paper copies, they're going to be using tablets per se and download, and they'll be actually out in the field working with those and have the information right there. So that cost will not be, we won't have to print all those cards. They'll be out in the field using tablets, and they come in and download.
But those cards will still be in.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. Those are not going away.
Second question, there was $500 an hour for additional services.
I think Pino, if they have to go to appeals and the property tax commission, somewhere they'll have to do, it's $500 a day, I think, to do appeals at the property tax commission in Raleigh. I think Pearson was gonna charge $600 a day if they had to go and support an appeal down there.
But that is not included in their bid.
No, that would be an extra if we have to go. Hopefully, everything will be good and we won't have to go.
I think the follow-up of Commissioner Massengale's comment would be kind of instructive to know what we paid for this the last time.
Commissioners, you have two bids in front of you. We did put this out to bid. There's a $15,000 difference between the two bids. I think we do our reevaluations on a 4-year schedule. However, we've not had money in how many years?
24 will be 8 years because our sales ratio has been up, but it's dropping.
So commissioners, you're looking at 8 years difference with inflation, with gas prices, with everything else. So I'm not really sure that the last bid that we received is going to bring you that much information. We're happy to bring that back before the board, but we did put it out to bid. We received 2 bids. One's $15,000 less than the other. Coincidentally, that's also our tax director's recommendation. My recommendation to the board would be to approve the tax director's recommendation and approve the contract for mine.
And this actually is for 2 years from now.
Yes, sir. It'll take that, hopefully if this is approved, they'll get started in July. And it takes about a year and a half to do a revamp.
And there's no escalator,
No, sir. No, sir.
Fair enough. I can accept it.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes, sir.
I think it would be prudent to do a little research before we go to the extreme of approving this. It wouldn't take but a little bit of background work, a couple of phone calls, to find out if this indeed is the company that's tied up in that debacle in Pennsylvania County. We don't want to have the same thing happen over here if it is avoidable.
Well, I know Pine Appraisal is not.
Your recommendation is not, does
My
not do that.
recommendation is Pine Appraisal. They are not doing any reval work in Virginia.
You say they are not or they have not?
They are not, they have not, and they are not
All right.
doing any work in Virginia.
Any more questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we accept, tax director's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dixon?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Ostrander?
Aye.
Mr. Massengill?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Boards and committee appointments, Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, you have your board and committee packet in your agenda. The Agricultural Advisory Committee is the first committee that you have. You have 3 members terming off, and you have no applications. The second board you have is the Board of Health. You have 1 member, Shannon Moritz, terming off 6/30/2022. You have 2 applications, Patricia Thompson and Shannon Moritz.
What term is this for Shannon, do we know?
I'm not sure how many terms she's.
Do you want us to vote on these individually, or you want to group them, or how you want to do this?
We're happy to do them however the board chooses.
Well, we have more than one candidate. We need to do it individually.
Okay. It's fine.
This is Ms. Moritz's second term. If she were approved, it would be her second term.
All right. Let's approve the health board members. Vote on it. You need a motion?
Are you gonna vote on them through a motion, or I remember last time we voted on, or y'all voted on individual names, and the person who got the most was put on the board.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Is that the way you want to vote this time?
Yep.
I'm just here.
Yes, that's what we need.
All right. Let's vote on the health board member. Patricia Thompson and Shannon Moritz. Keep up.
Shannon Moritz.
Shannon.
Shannon Moritz.
Shannon.
You still.
Dickerson.
Patricia Thompson.
I'll vote for her. Patricia Thompson. You vote for Patricia Thompson. Okay. You got that?
I mean, it's 2 for Patricia Thompson and 4 for Shannon.
Okay. Kelvin County Regional Economic Development.
So commissioners, this one's a little funny. You have Anthony Smith, Tony Smith, terming off 6/30/2022. Shirley Wilson terming off 3/31/2022. And Shirley Deal had resigned from the EDC. Shirley Wilson was appointed by the Milton Town Council. She was reappointed by the Milton Town Council. So that's not a position that, the board needs to, decide upon. You also have, Anthony Smith, who was appointed by Yankton. So that's not a position. So, the one position that we have is the resigned, position of Ms. Shirley Deal. And you have, you really have one person that has applied for that, unless so you have one applicant for that, and that's Laura Pichardo.
You got me one or two. Well, I wrote there, you got one.
She's already been appointed.
Yeah.
She's on there.
So basically, there's one open position and one applicant.
Right. Right.
I vote for Laura Pichardo.
I do too.
Laura. Kevin. Laura. This lady right here. These positions have been filled. Okay. Mr. Dickinson?
She got my vote.
Okay. Moving on to Castle County Adult Advisory.
Commissioners, you have one position and one applicant.
I vote for Ms. Simpson.
Simpson.
Simpson?
Yeah.
Mr. Dickinson?
Simpson.
Okay.
Commissioners, with the Heritage and Cultural Preservation Committee, you have, one member terming off on 6/30/2022. You received two applicants, Patricia Thompson and Yolanda Lynn Simpson. Oh, I'm sorry. No applicants.
Yeah, there's no applicants on this one.
Just a comment on this where we have no applicants. Will you repost those?
We will.
That would be my recommendation.
So moving on to the juvenile crime prevention, you have two members terming off, and one application received. It's a repeat application by Ms. Shannon Lewis.
Ms. Morris.
Ms. Morris.
Okay. Mr. Dickinson?
I'll vote for her.
Okay.
So Commissioners, moving on, you got the Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. You have one term ending with Mr. Michael Graves, 6/30/2022, and you have two applications received, Mr. Graves and Mr. Masson.
Mr. Chairman, I was under the impression when I got a call that Mr. Graves was turning off of the board and would not be reserving. Since I've received this, I've called Mr. Graves and he wants to continue to serve on the board. So I respectfully withdraw and would recommend Michael Graves.
Thank you, sir.
Can we go ahead and vote for
Mr. Graves.
Mr. Massengale?
No, we can't.
You got me.
Mr. Graves, Mr. Graves, Mr. Graves, Mr. Graves, Mr. Dickinson?
Mr. Graves.
All right. Planning board.
Commissioners, you have one member terming off. You've received two applications, Stephen Thompson and Amanda Hodges.
Ms. Hodges.
Thompson.
Thompson.
Mr. Dickinson. Mr. Dickinson.
Thompson.
Moving forward with the Senior Center Advisory Committee, you have 4 members terming off, 1 application received, Yolanda Lynn Simpson.
Ms. Simpson.
Simpson,
Simpson.
Simpson.
Mr. Jefferson. All right, Mr. Ferguson,
Simpson.
thank you.
Commissioners Social Services Board, you have 1 member terming off, and you've received 2 applications. The 1 person terming off is Patricia Thompson. You have 2 applicants, Patricia Thompson and Yolanda Lynn Simpson.
Tricia Thompson.
Ms. Thompson.
Thompson,
Thompson.
Mr. Dickinson, would you repeat that, please?
Thompson.
Thompson, okay, thank you.
Commissioners, you have for the Tourism Development Authority, you have 2 members terming off, Mindy Stinner and Rebecca Page. You received 3 applications, Jillian Medlin, Rebecca Page, and Mindy Stinner. So you need to vote for 2.
Page and Stenner.
Page and Skinner.
Agent Stenham.
Page and Stemmer.
Mr. Dickinson,
Say the names again.
Jillian Medlin, Rebecca Page, and Mindy Stinner.
Rebecca Page and Mindy.
Commissioners, that concludes your boards and committees.
County Manager's update.
Commissioners, one update that I'd like to bring to your attention is we were able to get in touch with Mr. Bellamy. He did make an appearance here at the courthouse. His recommendation to us was that we not purchase new equipment. He said the equipment we had was adequate. He made some slight modifications to how we were using it. I don't know what the board for the sound in the courtroom here. I don't know if you perceive the sound to be any better tonight, but it does sound to me to be somewhat better from my vantage point. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Actually, when he came and met with the clerk of the board. She handled most of the interactions. She did a wonderful job.
John, can you hear us pretty good? Thank you.
Yes, I can.
I notice the improvement when we use the microphone. If you don't use the microphones, it doesn't work. Big surprise there.
So I'm happy to answer any questions from the board about anything else that you may have. If not, we can move on.
Commissioner comments?
Yeah, I got one time. You know, we got a budget section at 8 o'clock in the morning, June 22nd. Budget work section, June 27th, 8 o'clock. Budget work section, June 29th. Now, I had a farm to operate just like everybody else does. I could go along with one meeting on, one meeting after. I've been around there 30 years. And they've been around and have meeting in the morning, meeting in the afternoon. Now, I want to be fair with everybody, but be fair with me. That's what I got. And then I can't get on this. I have to go out the farm also.
So which meeting would you like
I don't
to?
care which one, just go down the vote and change one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Doesn't matter, but we're not gonna give all 3 meetings in the morning.
Okay, with the 22nd, which will be Wednesday, would y'all like to do it in the evening?
No.
Well, that's the one also that we're supposed to have any department heads come, I believe.
That's correct.
That's correct, I forgot that. That's-
This time, I think we only have,
Wednesday, but what about the next meeting?
How many department heads do we have coming?
22nd, they want to have it in the morning, so they can have an appointment. The 27th is next. I may not be there for the 27th. I've got another meeting at 8. And then, just so you'll know, on the 29th, where we have an 8 o'clock scheduled, I have a 7 o'clock also. We've got 2 meetings each day. But
When you say evening, Mr. Jeffries said afternoon.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Be fine, so we change it, not going in 3 more.
What is afternoon, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
5:30, 6 o'clock.
That's evening. Evening.
Be fine.
On 22nd, 29th are not good for me for the evening. '27th is fine.
I'll be here when you tell me.
We still want to have a meeting on the 22nd in the morning. I may can move around on the 27th. Supposed to have 2 meetings that day. But one of them I might can move around that evening. Y'all want to meet on the 27th in the evening?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Is that okay with you?
5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock? Pick a time. What time?
6 o'clock, any 5:30, anytime, so don't be in the morning.
How long do you anticipate these particular sessions? Because I know you've got a lot to go. So
Each session I would anticipate lasting an hour and a half to 2 hours.
5:30
5:30 when?
on the 27th.
That's on the 27th.
That's 27,
Right. All right, that leaves the 29th. I know I can't be there in the evening on the 29th. That leaves an 8 o'clock meeting at that. All right, that's good for you. That good for the rest of you?
Yep.
All right, we'll change that one on the 27th to an evening meeting at 5:30. Announcements and upcoming events. Of course, we have the budget work sessions on June 22nd. We have a work session on June 27th at 5:30. And then we have another work session at 8 a.m. on the 29th. And then July the 5th is when you're scheduled to have a commissioner's meeting. We usually don't have a commissioner meeting the week of July the 4th. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, we still have to vote on the item unless you want to do it tonight.
Didn't the attorney advise us to wait?
Yes, he said something about till the next meeting.
Yeah, so
Which the following meeting would be.
till we can get a clean sheet of what it is. I think's what Mr. Farrell said.
Well, then it's going to be another month.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any time pressure with that particular amendment. I'd stand to be corrected, but maybe the planning director has more feedback. But the HIDO was passed, so this is the changing the RV definitions, right?
And that's correct. I'm not aware of any time-sensitive nature of that amendment.
I move that we cancel as well.
We have a motion and a second to cancel the July 5th meeting. We'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dickerson.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries. Aye. Mr. Owens. Mr. Ostrike.
Aye.
Mr. Massengill. Aye. Mr. Bay. Aye. Motion carries. There will be no July the 5th meeting.
There is the fireworks show or whatever on July the 1st
Correct,
here in town.
correct.
It's already had 5.
Food will start being served about 5:30. Band will start playing about 6:30, 7 o'clock, fireworks at about 9:15.
Is there anything else that needs to come before the board? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call voting, Mr. Dickerson,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Owen, Mr. Ostrogger, Mr. Massengill, Ms. Vane, aye. Motion carries. We now sit adjourned.